Tuesday, August 29th, 2023, AGNDD, Intellireport topic. Ghislaine Maxwell. Please pardon any visual and informational inaccuracies in this entirely AI-generated Wikipedia video article.
Ghislaine Maxwell. From Oxford to New York City, this is the story of a socialite who became entangled in scandal and controversy. Ghislaine Maxwell was born in 1961 in France to a French mother and a Czechoslovak-born British father. She grew up in Oxford, where her father ran a publishing company. Maxwell attended various schools before studying modern history with languages at Balliol College, Oxford. She had a close relationship with her father and was reportedly his favorite child. Her father was strict about her relationships and did not allow her to bring boyfriends home or be seen with them publicly while she was at university. Ghislaine Maxwell was a prominent figure in the London social scene in the 1980s. She founded a women's club and worked at her father's publication, The European. Maxwell spent a lot of time on her father's yacht, the Lady Ghislaine, and had a company in New York. After her father's death, she moved to the United States and became a New York City socialite. Maxwell's father was later found to have fraudulently appropriated pension assets, and two of her brothers were charged with fraud. Accounts differ on when Maxwell first met American financier Jeffrey Epstein. According to Epstein's former business partner, Stephen Hoffenberg, Robert Maxwell introduced his daughter to Epstein in the late 1980s. The Times reported that Maxwell met Epstein in the early 1990s at a New York party. Maxwell had a romantic relationship with Epstein for several years in the early 1990s and remained closely associated with him until his death in 2019. Their relationship was described as unclear, with Maxwell being referred to as Epstein's main girlfriend and aggressive assistant. Maxwell and Epstein had friendships with prominent individuals including Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, Alan Dershowitz, and Prince Andrew. Maxwell is known for her long-standing friendship with Prince Andrew and for introducing him to Epstein. Maxwell also transported Epstein to his private Caribbean island. After Epstein's conviction in 2008, Maxwell and Epstein were no longer seen together publicly. In a civil lawsuit made public in January 2015, Jane Doe 3 accused Ghislaine Maxwell of recruiting her as a minor and grooming her to provide sexual services for Jeffrey Epstein. It was later revealed that Jane Doe 3 was Virginia Giuffre, who met Maxwell at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago club when she was 16. Giuffre claimed that Maxwell introduced her to Epstein and they groomed her for his pleasure. Maxwell has denied any involvement in Epstein's crimes. Giuffre sued Maxwell for defamation and the case was settled in Giuffre's favor, with Maxwell paying her millions. Sarah Ransom filed a lawsuit in 2017 against Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, claiming that Maxwell hired her to give massages to Epstein and later threatened her if she did not comply with their sexual demands. The lawsuit was settled in 2018, but the terms of the settlement were not disclosed. On April 16, 2019, Maria Farmer filed a sworn affidavit in federal court in New York, accusing Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell of sexually assaulting her and her sister in 1996. Farmer's affidavit supported a defamation suit by Virginia Giuffre against Alan Dershowitz. Farmer claimed to have met Maxwell and Epstein in 1995 and was later hired to work on an art project at Leslie Wexner's Ohio mansion, where she was assaulted. She also alleged that Epstein and Maxwell molested her 15-year-old sister in New Mexico. Farmer spoke about the assault in a November 2019 interview on CBS This Morning. Jennifer Araoz filed a lawsuit against Jeffrey Epstein's estate, Ghislaine Maxwell, and 3 unnamed staff members in August 2019. The lawsuit was made possible by New York State's Child Victims Act. Araoz later amended her complaint in October 2019, adding the names of 3 previously unidentified women enablers, Leslie Groff, Simberly Espinosa, and the late Rosalind Fontanilla. Ghislaine Maxwell was named in a lawsuit filed in New York against Jeffrey Epstein's estate. The plaintiff, known as Priscilla Doe, alleges that she was recruited by Maxwell in 2006 and received training on how to provide sexual services for Epstein. Annie Farmer, represented by David Boies, filed a lawsuit against Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein's estate in November 2019. The lawsuit alleges charges of rape, battery, and false imprisonment and seeks unspecified damages. The case was filed in federal district court in Manhattan. In January 2020, a lawsuit was filed against Maxwell and Epstein, accusing them of recruiting and sexually abusing a 13-year-old music student in 1994. The lawsuit claims that the victim, referred to as Jane Doe, was repeatedly assaulted by Epstein over 4 years, with Maxwell playing a role in her recruitment and participating in the assaults. The suit alleges that Jane Doe was targeted due to her vulnerable background, similar to other alleged victims. Ghislaine Maxwell, a longtime associate of Jeffrey Epstein, filed a lawsuit in March 2020 seeking compensation from Epstein's estate for her legal costs. Maxwell claimed to have been an employee of Epstein and denied any involvement in his criminal activities. She sought damages for the legal fees incurred in defending herself against accusations and claimed that Epstein had promised to cover these expenses. The lawsuit was filed in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Maxwell was accused in a civil suit of trafficking and raping a woman in Florida in 2008, along with Epstein. The suit was filed against Epstein's estate in March 2021. On July 2, 2019, the U.S. Court of Appeals issued an order to unseal documents related to a civil lawsuit involving Ghislaine Maxwell and Virginia Giuffre. On July 6, 2019, Jeffrey Epstein was arrested and charged with sex trafficking. Maxwell, however, requested a rehearing to maintain the sealed status of the documents. Nevertheless, on August 9, 2019, the first set of documents was released. Tragically, Epstein was found dead the following day. Maxwell and her legal team continued to argue against the release of court documents, but on July 30, 2020, additional documents were made public. Ghislaine Maxwell, a close associate of Jeffrey Epstein, has been under investigation by the FBI for her role in facilitating Epstein's activities. Following her arrest, Maxwell went into hiding and has only communicated with the courts through her legal representatives. Throughout legal proceedings, she has a track record of being difficult to reach, and her lawyers have stated that they do not know her current address. Additionally, Maxwell has refused to accept any lawsuits that have been filed against her. Authorities in the U.S. Virgin Islands have been unable to locate her in order to serve her with a subpoena, as she is considered a crucial witness in the Epstein case. Ghislaine Maxwell, a close associate of Jeffrey Epstein, was arrested in July 2020 on charges of procuring and trafficking underage girls for Epstein and others. She was charged with 6 federal crimes, including enticement of minors and sex trafficking of children. Maxwell pleaded not guilty to the charges and was denied bail due to concerns about her flight risk and opaque finances. She is currently held at the Metropolitan Detention Center in New York and is scheduled to go on trial in July 2021. Maxwell's attorneys have raised concerns about her confinement conditions. In April 2021, U.S. District Judge Allison Nathan ruled that Ghislaine Maxwell would face 2 separate trials. One trial is for sex trafficking charges, and the other is for perjury. The first trial was postponed to November 29, 2021, as Maxwell's defense requested additional time for preparation. The trial commenced with opening statements, and Maxwell decided not to testify. An expert witness provided testimony on false memory syndrome. Twitter suspended an account that was monitoring the trial, and the jury's deliberations were prolonged due to COVID-19 concerns. On December 29, 2021, Ghislaine Maxwell was found guilty and convicted on 5 sex trafficking-related counts in a United States federal court. The charges carry a potential sentence of up to 65 years in prison. Maxwell was acquitted on 1 charge, but her family has begun the appeal process. Maxwell was sentenced to 20 years in prison on June 28, 2022, and was transferred to a low-security federal prison in July. In August, her former lawyers sued her for unpaid legal fees. Ghislaine Maxwell is currently facing a second criminal trial for perjury charges. These charges stem from her alleged false statements made under oath during a civil suit in 2015, which revolved around Jeffrey Epstein's exploitation of underage girls. If convicted, Maxwell could face a maximum sentence of 5 years in prison for each charge. However, prosecutors have expressed their intention to dismiss the perjury charges if Maxwell is sentenced as planned. Recently, a petition for a new trial has been filed under seal. Nevertheless, the judge has ruled that the reasons for sealing the petition must be disclosed to the public. In 2012, Ghislaine Maxwell founded the Terramar Project, a nonprofit organization with a focus on ocean protection. She delivered lectures and a TED Talk to raise awareness about the project. However, in July 2019, shortly after Maxwell was charged with sex trafficking, the project announced its closure. Maxwell was also listed as a director of a United Kingdom-based company called Terramar, UK, which was dissolved in December 2019. Since 1997, Ghislaine Maxwell has had residences in London, New York City, and Massachusetts. In New York, she lived in a townhouse near Jeffrey Epstein's mansion. Maxwell was romantically linked to Ted Waite, founder of Gateway Computers, and attended Chelsea Clinton's wedding as his guest. She later lived in Massachusetts with Scott Borgerson, a Council on Foreign Relations fellow, and they were described as being in a romantic relationship. Maxwell then moved to a property in New Hampshire where she was arrested in July 2020. It was revealed in December 2020 that she had married Borgerson in 2016. In conclusion, Ghislaine Maxwell's upbringing in Oxford and her close relationship with her father shaped her life. She became a prominent figure in London's social scene before moving to the United States.